Hey everybody, today is about the flow of energy in an ecosystem, specifically looking at food chains, food webs, and energy pyramids. So first of all, there's some vocabulary you need to be familiar with. You have producers, consumers, herbivores, carnivores, and decomposers. Producers are those plants that make their own food. Consumers are the ones that eat other things, like us. Herbivores only eat plants. Carnivores, carne asada. Carne at the beginning means meat, so carnivores are animals that eat other animals, and then decomposers are things like bacteria and fungi that break down the remains of once living things into the dirt. So in a food chain shows a singular pattern of energy. So it shows the transfer of energy. It always starts with the sun in an ecosystem. All living things need energy. So that sun will go into your producers. The producers will go into the primary consumers. That energy will go into the secondary consumers, third level consumers, and then your apex predator or your fourth level consumer. So what's happening is the arrow is showing where the energy is flowing. So the energy from the grass goes into the cricket because the cricket eats the grass. The energy of the cricket goes into the frog because the frog eats the cricket. So just pay attention to the arrow and how that's showing where the energy flows. Food webs are overlapping food chains that shows you the flow of energy between different organisms. You can also tell which organisms are competing with each other in a particular ecosystem. So for example, if you look at the owl and snake, you'll notice that the owl and snake have arrows going to it from a single food source. It looks like maybe a mouse. So the mouse, his energy goes in both the owl, and the mouse's energy also goes into the snake, meaning the owl eats the mouse and the snake eats the mouse. In other words, these two organisms are going to compete for each other for the same biotic resource or food, which is the mouse. For seeds from the tree, these two organisms compete with each other. Trophic level is just a fancy word for the position an organ occupies on the food web. So you have primary consumers, which eats the producers. That would be the grasshopper. You got your secondary consumers, which in this case would be the mouse. You got your tertiary, which would be your snake, and they eat the secondary consumers. And that just shows you, there's just the names for the different levels of energy. An energy pyramid shows the trophic levels of organisms in food webs. So the purpose of it is at the base of the pyramid is where all your energy is. It all starts with the producers. The more producers there are, the more consumers you're going to have above the pyramid. If you don't have very many producers and you don't have a variety of producers, then your biodiversity is limited, meaning you're not going to have very much different forms of life of consumers. So you got your producers here that holds most of the energy. 10% of that energy only goes to the primary consumers, and then 10% of that energy goes to the secondary consumers, and 10% of that energy goes to the tertiary consumers. So the least amount of energy available is at the top. The most energy available is at the bottom. So that is a summary of how energy flows in ecosystems using food chains, food webs, trophic levels, and energy pyramids.